The survey's second part is very good in terms of, I think, providing an overview on the whole blogging issue and dealing with blogging from a standpoint of finding best practices for blogging, finding tips on how to engage in blogging, and there's a very good section I'll refer you to in a minute, and also some mistakes to avoid. And these come from corporate examples. One is how not to be kryptonite. This is not the Superman kryptonite. This is referring to the kryptonite bicycle locks. There's been various stories, in the media about, like the burning, exploding Dell computers. Okay, the batteries, and there's a great video from like a Japanese conference where the Dell computer catches on fire and everybody's trying to put it out. And it's on YouTube. Okay, the kryptonite controversy started when there was one model of kryptonite bike lock that could be basically picked with a Bic pen and opened. And so kryptonite had a PR nightmare on its hand because all of a sudden out in the blogosphere it was like all your kryptonite locks are bad. They're all being picked by everybody on the street with their Bic pens. Well, that wasn't true, but they had to counter that perception in the marketplace. And there's other stories involving Gorton's and an attack by Greenpeace and other PR type issues that have come up in the blogging arena. Getting deuced. This is getting fired for your blog post. Okay, the term comes from a lady by the name of Heather Armstrong, who writes a blog that's at deuced.com. And this getting deuced term has applied to people who've been fired for their blogs. I chronicle in the report everybody from Delta Airlines to securities firms and so forth that have dismissed bloggers. And there were two cases I identified in the public sector for people who, public sector employees that have been fired for their blog post. One worked for the CIA. And she blogged about the food at the cafeteria. She also blogged about the Iraq War, and there was a few other matters. I also had a gentleman from the Virginia DMV, and I hear tickets are going up in the state of Virginia. You better not make an illegal right turn. But this state employee at the DMV was blogging on your state time. He got fired finally he was posting, it wasn't his own blog, which he had, but he was posting on a blog that had like a caption contest for a cartoon. And I guess it was a slow day at the DMV. He posted like 35 captions in an hour and a half. Okay. Instead of taking the people in line. Anyway, so it's a very interesting world in which we live in. And the report, I think, gives some very good advice on how to look at blogging and how to look at the Web 2.0 technologies. I think the most direct takeaway, next slide, is a section that deals with tips for blogging by government executives. And I think as you go through the report, I think these are very helpful tips in terms of if I decide, if I'm persuaded as an elected official, as an agency head, that I'm going to engage in this technology. And I think what we're going to see is over the next 3 to 5 years, the numbers are going to increase dramatically in terms of the percent of elected officials and high-ranking agency heads that will be using these technologies to provide direct communications. What's interesting is you've got to make a time commitment to this. You've got to say why I'm doing this. You've got to allocate the time to actually do the writing yourself. You've got to be regular. A week without blog activity is an eternity. And if you have an audience built up for your blog, If people come, no activity. People come and no activity. If you have an RSS feeder and there's nothing being updated, then people are going to tune out. And so being regular with the blog post is so important. Great example from the DC area. Your former mayor, Anthony Williams, started a blog. It lasted a few months. He was very irregular in terms of posting. He got into kind of a virtual fight with a constituency, a few constituents, and he said, "That's it, I'm done." Okay, so there's, I think you have to have a thick skin with this. You have to have a hard hide. There's some stories from a superintendent in Florida who stopped his blog and then came back with a reformulated idea for the blog. I also have a example from Balch Springs, Texas, where a city council person, best not to blog at 2 a.m. in the morning. The old thing, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. She had some very unnice things to say, and she's no longer on the city council. Spell check, okay? Spell check. Copy and paste from Word. Don't give too much information. There's a great quote in the report about what people are interested in reading about in your blog and what they're not interested in reading about. Number 9 is very, very important these days. Consider multimedia. What we're seeing is a trend to where we're ratcheting up the competition in terms of blogging for attention. Not just text. It's so easy to incorporate web videos and all other, you're going to hear about Marriott with podcasts. We're seeing, I know Senator Obama on his official blog, not the campaign blog, has switched to audio and video files for the most part. And so it's very interesting. To number 10, be a student of this. You've got to see what people are doing, get ideas from other bloggers, both private individuals, corporate executives, and other government officials. And, ultimately what this does, at the end of the day, is that blogging is a way of increasing civic engagement. What the demographics of blogging skew young, for the most part, but what we find is, and this is some political science university-based research, is that people who are more engaged online in blogging activities and other interactive forms of activities on the web tend to be more civically and politically involved and more influential in their own sphere of influence, both online and offline. And so it's a very interesting development. And the next few years are going to be interesting in terms of chronicling what's going on with the blogging revolution. Next slide. Say in conclusion, I come from the Dallas area originally, and Molly Ivins was an icon in terms of she was a fantastic writer. And when she died earlier this spring, there was a line out of one of the articles talking about her life and work, talking about that. The thing about democracy, beloveds, in her style, is that it is not neat, orderly, or quiet. It requires a certain relish for confusion. And these new media, everything from blogs to YouTube and everything in between, they're not neat, orderly, or quiet. And I know government usually is a neat, orderly, and quiet environment. And so these are new, at least from the outside. It's going to be interesting to see what you can do with these Web 2.0 technologies to increase engagement, and it's going to change things in terms of the way communications is carried out, both internally and externally. Next slide. And that's my wrap-up. That's not me, but I'm very pleased. I again thank the Center for having me up today, and I'm very pleased and hope that you enjoy reading the report. I know one of the blog posts said no higher compliment than he was going to take it for his summer beach reading, and that it might last the whole trip. It's a little long, but make sure you get to the government part of the front end. So thank you very much.